Jeremy Brignell-Thorp, representing the Green Party for Montgomeryshire and Glyndwr at the July the 4th general election. Lovely to be here in Montgomery, your hometown. People might not know much about you, so tell us, who is Jeremy Brignell-Thorp?
Right, okay. Well, thank you very much for inviting me to do this interview. I'm currently a councillor on Powys County Council for the Green Party, one of 8 Green Party local authority councillors in Wales. But I've only been doing that for 2 years. So before that, I've spent about 15 years in various social enterprises around Powys and Shropshire, really looking at climate change issues and environmental issues. And I became very concerned about the environment probably back in 2006 or 2007. I decided to sort of change course of my career at that stage, and so retrained to firstly to work in the housing energy efficiency area, giving advice on housing energy efficiency, and then for 10 years or so working for a social enterprise called Share Energy, setting up community-owned renewable energy schemes. So for the last 15 years, the environment and climate change has really been what I've been sort of all about, all of my work and voluntary work. Before that, my original degree was mathematics, and in fact I worked for National Grid for 8 years before moving on to other things. So I also have quite a reasonable knowledge of the transmission grid and how electricity generation works.
The Green Party, we've not had many candidates for Montgomeryshire in the past. Isn't it just a party about environmental issues? How can you be taken seriously on the other big issues like NHS and
Right.
various things?
So yeah, obviously the Green Party, the big issue is climate change, and that's because climate change is really the defining issue of this generation. If we get that wrong, then it really doesn't matter what we do about other areas of government, because the country will be in a very bad state. So that is our primary focus, and we're saying that we're the only party that are actually listening to scientists what we have to do to tackle climate change, and the other parties are really not addressing this with the seriousness that it deserves. But yeah, you're quite right. We're not just about climate change. We regard ourselves as a party of social justice. So the manifesto has a lot of things to say about the NHS, education, housing, and so on. And basically, on issues such as NHS and education, the long and the short of it is that they don't have the funding that they need at the moment. We spend less on health services by about 20% or so than the average in Europe. So our NHS has been sort of bled dry over the last decade or so, and we would be wanting to put more money into the NHS to try and tackle the waiting lists, to try and make sure people can get to see a GP. And the way we would intend to do that is by introducing, as you've seen in the manifesto, one of the ways is a wealth tax, and that is basically a tax on assets that people own rather than their income. And it would only start at when people have an ownership of 10 million or more in assets. So it's not going to affect the sort of people who are struggling at the moment with paying bills and so on. Our philosophy is to try and levy taxes and to share them out with on those with the shoulders that can bear the burden of taxation. So it's only going to be a tiny amount. It's going to be on assets over 10 million pounds, it would only be 1% of those assets per year. And we feel that that is a fair price to pay for protecting the NHS and protecting against climate change.
The Welsh manifesto talks a lot about independence for Wales, and that the Green Party will support eventually an independent Wales. Does that put you on a collision course with Plaid Cymru and Plaid Cymru voters also?
I don't think really. I mean, I've been very pleased with what I've seen of devolution so far. Devolution does seem to have delivered quite a lot of benefits for Wales. We have the very innovative Welfare for Future Generations Act, which the Welsh Government has brought in, which is now the sort of being sought, our team in Cardiff are being sought from around the world to advise on how it can be implemented in other countries. And we've got things like the recycling targets that Wales has been very hot on. We now are apparently second in the world in terms of recycling targets. So the Welsh Government has done some brilliant things. In terms of independence as such, I think I'm generally, my preference would be for us to retain strong links with the UK. And I think in terms of independence, it would be up to the nation to decide. I wouldn't want to be dictating to the people of Wales what they should be doing. I think it would be something that we would need more of a national debate on.
There's talk of nationalising the railways, water and energy. You feel that's an urgent need?
Some are more urgent than others. I think water is the main one here. Privatisation has been beneficial for some things where there is some genuine areas of competition, and energy, there is the possibility in terms of energy generation of there being genuine competition, and that has probably brought prices down for generation. But water is basically a natural monopoly and really isn't appropriate for privatisation. So water seems to be the critical one, where the water companies are not addressing the need to prevent pollution coming into the watercourse, and this pollution in the groundwater is causing real problems. In Powys, a lot of housing is being held back because planning applications can't be granted where the levels of pollution in the water are still at the levels they are. So there's a lot of problems in the water industry, and that, because it's a natural monopoly, it would be appropriate to bring back into public ownership.
Finally, we have what's called the elevator pitch. We get in the elevator or the lift on the first floor, and I'm getting out at the 10th floor. You tell me that you're running for the Green Party. How can you convince me to vote for you in 30 seconds?
Well, the Green Party is the only party taking the climate change issue seriously. We're the only ones listening to the scientists. Climate change is not something you can negotiate. Unlike Brexit, where when the negotiations fail, you can just take another year or another 2 years to do it. Climate change is basically the laws of physics, and you can't negotiate with the laws of physics, so we have to get that right. And the Green Party is the only one that's actually addressing that seriously. But we're also the party of social justice, so we have innovative policies to make sure the NHS is rebuilt and education is rebuilt as well, so that we can deliver proper services for the people of Wales.